There's a phrase that quietly traps a lot of high performing people on the edge of retirement: one more year. It sounds harmless, responsible even. Just one more year to pad the portfolio, one more year to smooth the transition, one more year to feel certain. I know the temptation well. When I first retired at 50, I gave it my best shot. And if I'm completely honest, I failed miserably. It lasted about 3 months. The boredom we talked about in the last episode, yeah, it was real in those early days. I didn't yet understand how to use unstructured time. I didn't yet know how to sit in the silence. So I put myself out there quietly, telling myself that if the right opportunity came along, well, at least I'd consider it. And it did. In fact, it was a dream role. Fully remote, smaller team, perfectly aligned with my background in real estate investing and product design. It was even connected to an organization that had influenced me from afar for years. It felt like the ideal way to quote unquote retire, but still help. I told myself I was still retired. My wife and I had committed to banking the paycheck and never living off it. So in my mind, that kept the label intact. But in reality, I had said yes to one more year. That 1 year became 3. There was also something deeply reassuring about being wanted again. When the offer came through, it felt good. It felt stabilizing. It felt like proof that I hadn't lost anything. The edge was still there. The instincts were still sharp. I could still step into a room, even a virtual one, and contribute immediately. That affirmation is powerful. If you've spent decades operating at a high level, being invited back into that arena doesn't just feel professional, it feels personal. I told myself I was helping. I told myself I was giving back. And in many ways, that was true. But underneath that was something more subtle. I liked being needed. I liked that my presence changed outcomes. I liked that my calendar filled up again. I liked that someone somewhere was depending on me. And that's where one more year gets slippery. It was exciting. It was energizing. It felt a little like a rebound relationship after a long marriage. There was novelty. There was affirmation. There was a reassuring sense that I was still capable and sharp. Internally, the negotiation sounded something like this: I just need one more year to prove to myself that I can still do this. One more year to reassure myself that I'm not fading. And one more year to smooth the edges of the transition. Well, eventually, my role was eliminated. There was a strange quiet that followed. Not panic, not anger, just quiet. The calendar cleared again, the email stopped again, and I had to ask myself a question. I had postponed for 3 years. If this disappears, who am I now? There was no rebound available this time. No quick pivot. No just helping. I was either returning fully to the arena again or finally admit that I had been delaying something. And what I had been delaying wasn't work. It was the transition. That's when it hit me. I hadn't needed one more year. I had needed to let go. And while that ending was abrupt, it clarified something for me. The rebound job, it was still just a job. It still had meetings, requirements, deliverables, structure, expectations. It was fulfilling in its own way, but it paled in comparison to the deeper freedom I had tasted during those first months of true retirement. The thrill of being bound to no one, of owning my weekdays entirely, was something I could not unknow. And that's when I realized what one more year really does. You know, most people tell themselves that one more year is about money. Sometimes it is, but often, especially for those who are already financially independent, the math doesn't change meaningfully. In the grand scheme of things, the additional salary I earned in those 3 extra years helped pay down some real estate leverage. That was nice, but it didn't materially alter our long-term trajectory. If anything, it reinforced something I had already observed, that once you reach sufficiency, the struggle actually starts to shift from having too little to worrying about having too much. One more year is rarely just about income. Instead, it's about identity. It's about significance. It's about the comfort of momentum. When you've worked professionally for 25 years or more, your career becomes fused to your sense of self. You're used to being needed, used to carrying responsibility, used to solving complex problems and receiving the dopamine hit that follows. Write the code, launch the product, close the deal, repeat. It's exhilarating. It's validating. So stopping all of that doesn't just mean starting a new chapter. It can feel like closing the book entirely. Momentum is easier than transition. Momentum runs on cruise control. You wake up and you know who you are because your calendar tells you. Transition requires friction. It requires admitting that the next chapter is unwritten. It requires confrontation and silence. And silence is uncomfortable. If someone says, just one more year 5 times in a row, that's 5 years. I know because I did it 3 times. And here's the hidden cost of that delay. It's not just a year of income. It's a year of time, a year of health, a year of mornings that could have been yours, a year of presents that you don't get back. It's a year of midweek walks without glancing at your phone, a year of saying yes to a spontaneous trip without negotiating PTO, a year of slow mornings that don't belong to anyone else. When you compress that into the abstract phrase, one more year, it sounds small. When you expand it into lived days, it feels different. And that's why I sometimes think of it this way. One more year can quietly become 2 years of your life. 1 step forward financially, 2 steps backward in lived experience. That doesn't mean work is bad. I loved my work. It challenged me. It sharpened me. But once you've reached the point where work is optional, staying for just 1 more year is often a way to delay the harder work of redefining yourself. And that's the part no spreadsheet captures. So what question should someone ask instead? Maybe not. Can I afford 1 more year? Maybe the better question is, can I afford to give 1 more year? Or even more provocatively, how might I create 1 less year? How might I create 1 more year of freedom instead? For me, the mature version of courage wasn't reckless abandonment. It wasn't storming out of the office in a blaze of glory. It was a quiet willingness to step into what felt like the unknown with the confidence that I would land on my feet. It was trusting that life on the other side of work wasn't an empty void, but a different kind of fullness. Now that I've stepped away fully, I haven't looked back. The rebound job taught me something valuable. I didn't miss the structure as much as I thought I did. I missed the validation. Validation is subtle. It hides inside meeting invites and performance reviews. It hides inside someone saying, "We need you on this." When that goes away, it can feel like something in you just went quiet. I had to learn the difference between being needed and being valuable, and they are not the same thing. And once I understood that, the pull weakened. If you're on the edge of retirement and you hear that voice whispering, "Just 1 more year," I would encourage you to pause long enough to ask what it's really about. Is it truly financially necessity? Or is it familiarity disguised as prudence? There's no universal answer. Every situation is different. But I've learned that the default setting of high achievers is to delay the leap because momentum feels safer than the transition. Sometimes the braver move is to stop. If this resonates with you, Consider subscribing or sharing your perspective in the comments. I'm always interested in how others are thinking through these things. And as always, thank you for tuning in to John Dawson Retirement.